Hello everyone. I've often heard people saying that goodness is rewarded, and I am compelled to believe into this notion because of the narrations and anecdotes that people have shared. Today, I, Kapila, am going to read such a story to you which tells us that goodness is really rewarded. This is the story of Mr. Ray, who owns a clock shop. Let us begin with the chapter, The Old Clock Shop. Christmas Eve had arrived. As last-minute shoppers were going home, a thick white sheet of snow lay over Salt Lake City, USA. Yet the lights were still burning in the old clock shop as Ray, its old deaf owner, worked on a clock he had sold that day. So this first paragraph tells us that it was Christmas Eve and they were last minute shoppers. People, like it's festival today and there's maybe, supposing I'll give you the example of Diwali. It's Diwali today and I have to just go for the puja after half an hour, but certain things are there which I still need for the puja. So I'll run to the market. So those people who go for shopping in the last minute, they are termed as last minute shoppers, right? So here also last minute shopper is there, and there are people who are there who want to shop on the last moment just before they are wanting to celebrate that particular festival. And it was because Christmas is there in December and we all know that there's a lot of snow there. So the whole city, it appeared to be having a sheet of white snow there. And which city are they talking about? The city's name is Salt Lake City, and the city is there in USA. And people were there, most of the people were at home. Some people were there who were the last minute shoppers, and this man here, Mr. Ray, he was deaf. And he is the owner of the old clock shop. His shop lights, they were on, they were burning, they were on. Why they were burning? Because he was mending, he was doing some work, some mending work he was doing on a clock that he had sold that day. Having finished his work, Ray stood up and was on his way to the back room when a cold rush of air from the front door hit the back of his neck. So at times you must have visited certain shops which have got behind the counter, the shopkeeper is standing, and then behind the shopkeeper also there is a room inside, and they go inside that room where it is like a go down, or maybe it's like a workshop inside. So similarly, this shopkeeper of ours, that is Mr. Ray, also was going into the back room that was there behind him. So he turned back. But as soon as he turned back, what happened was that he felt some cold breeze on the neck. So he came to know, because he was deaf, he could not hear anything, but he could feel. So he felt the cold breeze there on the neck because the door was opened by somebody. He turned to meet a last-minute shopper, but his old wise eyes told him that this was not a shopper. He saw two men, one in his 20s, the other closer to 50. The younger man remained at the door. The older man approached the counter with no sign of friendliness in his eyes. Ray was able to hide his growing fear as he slowly pushed a notepad and a pencil across the counter. Now see, he turned because of that cold breeze that was there on the neck. He turned around and he saw that two people had come there. One was a man who was in his 20s. Okay, the age was around 20s, but he was standing there at the door of the shop. And another man who was there in the age of 50s, he had entered inside. Now, because of lot of experience, he knew that these were not shoppers, and he was having fear inside him. Right? He was fearful, he was frightful, something bad will happen. But still, he hid that fear and he pushed that notepad and pencil so that he may write. The customer who had come there, the one who was in 50s, he may write whatever he wanted. And he could also see in the eyes of that man that there was no friendliness. So that is the reason why he had that fear. He smiled at the unfriendly face. So who's having that unfriendly face? The person who has come to his shop, the one who is in 50s. Then pointed to his ears and shook his head from side to side. A quick look of surprise changed the man's face as he studied the notepad, then turned and said something to his friend. So now, because he was the shopkeeper, he had to, be very friendly with anybody who came there as a customer. So he smiled there. And then, what he did was, he signed here on his ears and he did like this. He shook his head. So this made him understand that he could not hear. Right? So with the sign language, he made that man understand that he could not hear. And then when he looked at the notepad, the man who was there in 50s, he understood that the shopkeeper was deaf. So he turned back and he told something to the man who was standing outside, the younger one. He told something. But obviously the shopkeeper was deaf, so he could not hear. Mr. Ray could not hear anything. Ray used the chance to look closely at the man, paying attention to the shape of a gun and a restless hand in the man's right coat pocket. Anger boiled within him, but it was kept down by an inner voice that said, "Be still." He wrote on the notepad, "May I help you?" For the first time, the older man looked directly at Ray and smiled, a cruel, mocking smile. They both understood why he was there, why his friend remained at the door. They looked like men who were down on their luck and were now ready to try something they would later be sorry about. So now, while he was, talking to the younger boy, Ray thought that I should look at this man very closely. When he looked at the man closely, he saw that in the right pocket of the coat, there was something in the shape of a gun. A pistol was there, and his hand was also restlessly moving there inside the pocket. So anger boiled him. He became very, very angry, very furious. But from inside, something told him, "Be quiet, be still." And very nicely, he wrote there on the notepad, "May I help you?" And that was the first time when this customer, he smiled at him and directly looked at his face into his eyes and had a smile, and it was a mocking smile. Mocking smile is when you're making fun of somebody. So now both of them knew. Mr. Ray also knew, and that person also knew that why he had come over there, right? He had come to steal. They had come to do something wrong over there. Why the man was standing there at the door, both of them knew. Mr. Ray also and that also. And they would be sorry later on for the bad thing that they would be doing there. Okay, so they both knew everything, what will happen. The clock ticked on. Ray calmly wrote another message. "Have you come to pick up a clock or watch?" Then he pointed to the lone board filled with hanging clocks and pocket watches. He was not a pawnbroker. Who's a pawnbroker? A pawnbroker is a person who keeps something, and then what he does is he gives you money. Supposing I need money and I don't have money, then maybe I give my watch to that person, and instead of that watch he will give me money, and then later on I can give the money back to the man along with some more money, that is the interest on it, and then I can take my watch back. But he was not a pawnbroker. Mr. Ray was not a pawnbroker. He did not give money by keeping things, but still he showed the sign of loan that was there, and under that loan sign there were many clocks and watches hung. But at the same time couldn't say no to the needy people who placed their old watches or clocks before him for anything they could get. So he was not a pawnbroker, but still people who were very needy, who really wanted money and who would give him watch, "Please keep my watch and give me some money," he could not say no to them. So he used to keep those watches and clocks that the people gave, and he would give them money instead of that. He loaned more than he should. So supposing the watch was of only 50 rupees, he would give, if the person needed 100 rupees, he would give 100 also. So he gave the loan of more than what he should give, because actually he really wanted to help the people who were there in need. They would be there when the owners wanted them back at the same price he had paid with no interest. Right? So he would not take any interest. Whatever amount he gave, he took the same amount and returned the thing back. Okay? Whereas a pawnbroker doesn't do the same. pawnbroker is a person who takes your things, then gives you money, but when you go back to take your things, he will take that money that he has given to you. Apart from that, he will also charge interest on that money for the duration of time that you have taken the money. But Mr. Ray was not like that. He gave the money more than he should and he never took any interest. Then the older man seemed to feel a little easier, took out his hand from his pocket and quickly looked at the watch on his wrist. "How much will you give me for this?" the man wrote. So now the man was easy. So he took out the watch from his wrist and then on the notepad he asked Mr. Ray how much could he pay for that wristwatch. Ray noticed a little shame in the grey eyes looking at him. The watch was nothing special and yet had great powers. It was something to exchange a way out of a bad situation. This is very important, children. Very important. The watch was not having anything special in it, but this watch was a way of getting those two people out of the bad situation. You know, people, they commit crime because they are compelled by bad situations. They had come there to either rob or steal or kill or anything they would do, anything bad they would do just because they were in a bad situation. Now, if that watch would be given, they would not be there in the bad situation. So it was just a medium, a way of, taking them out of the bad situation. The watch was not very special, but it was special in a way because if it would be exchanged, then the bad situation would be gone. Knowing that great need had brought the man to his shop in the first place, Ray asked, "How much do you need for it?" The reply came back on the notepad, "Whatever it's worth." So now Mr. Ray knew that he is in great need of money. So he really wanted to help, and that is the reason why he wrote on notepad how much money he needed. And the man also replied that whatever the worth is, whatever is the actual price of this, whatever you think is right for this watch, you give me that amount of money. And now Mr. Ray was a very good person. So he really wanted to help, and he had already noticed shame also in the eyes. So that is why out of the way he was going to help him. Ray reached into his cash box, pulled out a $50 note and passed it into the man's hand. As they shook hands, Ray looked into the man's eyes. They seemed to say, "Thank you." They both knew the watch wasn't worth that much. Before turning to leave, the man wrote, "I will be back to pick it up as soon as I can. Merry Christmas." So he gave more money. He gave $50, and both of them knew that the watch is not of $50, but still the man thanked and he said he would come back, and he also wished Mr. Ray Merry Christmas. The little story ended on the half hour with the clocks striking all together. The timepieces, which had been looking on silently all the while, rang out the time with such feeling that even Ray thought he could hear them. Their sweet musical message was filled with hope. The timeless message of peace on earth, goodwill towards all, was felt by the three men who stood in the old clock shop. So there was a message that was given by the sound that was made. Half an hour had passed and the clocks, they struck and the sound was made, and it appeared to Mr. Ray as if he could also hear the sound, and it was a sound that was of happiness, and the message that was being spread was of peace on earth and goodwill towards all. So because he was good to all, there would be peace that would be prevailing everywhere. Now let us do the question answers. Question 1. What made Ray think the visitor was not really a shopper? Ray thought that the visitor was not really a shopper because of his experience. When he looked at the person, he came to know that he had not really come for shopping. Also, the second man, who was younger, was standing at the door. When he came near to him, he also saw the unfriendly look that was there on his face. Question 2. Why do you think he had come to the shop? He must have come to the shop to loot him and harm him. How did Ray communicate with him? Ray could not hear and speak, and he communicated with the customers by writing on a notepad with a pencil, and the customers also communicated with him in the same manner. Question 4. What do you think the man said to his friend who waited at the door? The man who was waiting at the door was told by the man who was inside the shop that the shopkeeper was deaf and could not hear anything, and neither could he speak anything. Question 5. Ray was not a pawnbroker. Why then did he lend money to people in exchange for their old watches and clocks? A pawnbroker is a person who keeps your things as security and then gives you the money that you need, and that also on interest. Ray was not such a person. He never took any interest on the money that he lended. He loaned the people more money than he should, because he was really kind and helpful, and he could not say no to the needy people. Question 6. The watch was nothing special and yet had great powers. In what sense did it have great powers? See, the watch had great powers because that watch took that person out of the bad situation, and it stopped him from doing any harm to the shopkeeper also, and doing bad would also make him feel bad, so he was stopped from doing that bad action also. So both the ways, it had special powers to save Mr. Ray also from any harm, and to save this man also from doing anything wrong. And of course the watch helped him with the money that he needed. Question 7. Do you think the man would ever come back to pick up the watch? Now see, the chapter is all about doing good to others. So we need to be very optimistic and hopeful. So I think that the man was really cheerful after getting $50, and he was really thankful, and maybe when good times return, he would come back to Mr. Ray and return the money and take his watch. Maybe he would also transform, he would change. Question 8. When did the unfriendly face of the visitor turn truly friendly? The unfriendly face of the visitor turned truly friendly when he received a $50 note from Mr. Ray, because that was what he needed. He was in the dire need of it. He really badly needed it. So that is the reason why his face turned friendly. We will meet in some other videos with some such more interesting stories. Till then, take care.